the song with your heart. Play the song with your heart.
I want to we should have started off the show with this, but Bryce Young
Mm.
yesterday it's announced that he has been benched
I thought
for
that was
Andy
today.
Dalton. No, I think it was
Oh, that was yesterday?
yesterday. Yeah,
Huh.
it was yesterday.
Oh, yeah, it
Yeah.
was yesterday. It was.
So Bryce Young is now on the bench, and I have to say this: the Panthers have failed Bryce Young. I thought that this was going to be a better situation for Bryce Young. Turns out it's not. I saw the film. I saw the all 22. Um, yeah, Bryce Young is it's not looking too good. That interception that he threw all off rip, the play call was horrible. It was like two post routes. The two receivers, they looked like they were about to bump into each other, and then you had two curl routes on the
It was like it
outside.
was like it was like two digs and curls. I'm like, okay, I don't know what's going on here.
It was just like, yo, that it's just the play call was bad. But then what's even worse is that Caleb, he was staring down his receiver,
You mean
staring
Bryce?
down Deontay Johnson. Oh, I said Caleb. Well, I mean, they both were doing some pretty awful stuff. But Bryce Young, he was staring down Deontay Johnson, and he tried to throw with anticipation. It did not work, and it got picked off. And the problem is that when you keep staring down your receiver, guess what? The safety notices he's looking at you and he's like, oh, that's where you're going to throw? Bet I'm going to jump this route. And that's what he did. There's just so many different factors about that play. Number one, Deontay Johnson, when you notice when he cut, he started accelerating. I was like, damn, like
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of weird because I was looking at Adam Thielen and he didn't decelerate. I was like, okay, I mean he's slow, but he still looked fluid in his route. I'm like, okay, that's kind of weird. So you could say, well, if Deontay Johnson didn't decelerate, then maybe that's still a bad read. At the end of the day, you can't be staring down your receiver and expect that everything is going to go well in that scenario. Like he shouldn't have stared down his receiver. He should have went to the other read, and ultimately got picked off. Bryce Young, it's just not. It just doesn't look well. It just doesn't look well. I think part of it is Dave Canales. The play calling is not that good. Like some of these routes, they were pretty well covered by who they play. Who did
The
they play?
Chargers.
The Chargers. Yeah, they did a good job covering. Like I was watching and I was like, the secondary is doing a really good job, just pretty much covering everything. And Bryce Young, he had a tough time trying to figure out where to throw. So a part of it is the play calling, but ultimately Bryce Young, he just wasn't that good. There was moments I remember there was one play where I think the pass rush came and Bryce Young, all he had to do was step up in the pocket and he would have been able to deliver to his second read, but he didn't do that. He just decided to roll out to the left. And guess what happened? Like he wasn't able to throw it to anybody and threw it out of bounds. Like it's just simple stuff like that where a good quarterback would understand, like, all right, first read's not there, but hey, here's my second read. And I'm looking and I see the second read is about to get open. Let me step up in the pocket and deliver it. But he didn't do that. And these are just some of the simple things that it just feels like he's not comfortable with right now. And I understand why Dave Canales elected to bench him because he just hasn't played well. I just feel bad for him because he just hasn't he's just not in a good situation. Frank Wright got fired. He wasn't good for Bryce Young. He didn't even want him there. The owner, he's just dysfunctional as it is, having your wife in the meeting with the coach and all of the people that know football. Like, what? It's just a complete mess right now, and I don't know, man. I really don't. It's just a complete mess. What is your thoughts on the Carolina Panthers, Dave Canales benching Bryce Young and starting Andy Dalton?
As far as the benching goes, I don't really see much changing personally. I just think it's just a bad situation all around the Panthers are in. But as far as the Panthers mishandling Bryce Young and everything, there's something to be said about that. You draft him first overall last year, but you don't give him any help in the draft. You didn't have another first round pick. You didn't even have a second round pick, as far as I know. Um, you had the opportunity to trade Brian Burns for multiple picks at one point to the Rams. You passed that up just for him to leave anyway. Whatever. Then you fire the coach. Was it a midseason fire or
Frank Wright. Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
midseason? You fire him midseason. Throw him to the Wolves. He ain't really having. Who did he have to learn behind? Really, I mean, then this year it's a new system, new scheme. Got new offensive coordinator. Dave Canales coming in. Had high hopes for him, and then you play him for one series in the preseason. And then when he doesn't perform, surprisingly, in the first two games, you bench him. What? See, this what I'm talking about. These teams in these orgs, they just don't know how to handle these rookie QBs. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like this shouldn't be such a common occurrence. Like rookie QBs, they would bust back in the days, but it was like the rate is much higher now. Like you look at you in the previous years, you had Sam Darnold, Trey Lance, Zach Wilson. At one point, it was looking like Baker Mayfield was on that trajectory, and these orgs just consistently refuse and just fail to set up these rookie QBs in solid situations where they can actually develop as a player. Like these kids coming out of college, fresh out of college, they're looking to save. They expected to save a franchise. And the way the league operates now, these teams don't give players in general enough time to even develop. If you don't produce, you pretty much you're out of there. And it's kind of shocking. Like these teams aren't ran like football teams. They're ran like businesses. A lot of these owners are business minded. They just want the quickest return on their investment. And that's how you end up with the situations like the Panthers. You end up situated like the Broncos, all these other teams out here, the Raiders. It's just sad. I feel bad for Bryce Young because like if you looked at his film in college, the man could play. He could play point blank. I don't want to hear what anybody say. People pretending that he just was never good all of a sudden. Forget all that. He won a Heisman and he would have beat Georgia if Jameson Williams and John Mechie ain't here. And this is coming from a Georgia fan. And then the next year, he still played good. Even like who did he have at wide receiver for that last year at Bama?
I think I forget. I know Jermaine Burton was still there. I don't recall Jameson. I think Jameson Williams may have gotten drafted already. Either he gotten drafted or he was there his final year.
He got drafted.
He got drafted. Okay. So I think he had Jermaine Burton. Like his receiving core wasn't all that talented as last year.
Exactly. And he was still producing. Still Alabama was still in it. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to sit up here and allow people to act like he could just never play. Something is going wrong organizationally, coaching wise, personnel wise. I mean, okay, you went out and got Deontay Johnson, you got Xavier Leggett in the draft, that's good, but your scheme isn't reflecting these acquisitions and putting them in situations and positions to succeed. So, I mean, what do you expect them to do? I don't think that they're going to look much better under Andy Dalton all of a sudden. It's just going to be, he may look slightly better. They may, instead of getting blown out, they may lose by only 7 points. But I mean, I don't know, man. It's just ridiculous.
I like how you brought up
these players got to go through.
I like how you brought up Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Zach Wilson. I like how you brought them up because they are perfect examples of going from a toxic environment to an environment where everything is not on their shoulders and they can play freely now and they can develop and they have people around them that are encouraging them and helping them become good, solid quarterbacks. It's funny. It's funny how good coaching can change the trajectory of a QB. With Bryce Young, he's just another example of that. And man, it's just really sad. It really is. I hope nothing but the best for Bryce Young. I hope he can figure out a way to get around all of this and find a different destination and develop into a good quarterback, because right now this situation is just toxic. A lot of these owners, you know what they need to do? They need to go on Apple Music, play Kendrick Lamar Savior, because Kendrick Lamar clearly says they're not your saviors. The same thing is applied with these QBs. They're not your saviors.
Like think about it. Like it just from a logical aspect, most QBs hit their prime at 30. Why are you expecting 22 and 23-year-olds fresh out of college to save your franchise? And then you don't put them in a good position. Like you can't give them trash ingredients and expect them to cook up a Michelin star meal. That's just not how it works. And that's never how it worked. Tom Brady was saying the same thing. So I don't even know what they want these kids to do at this point, man. I feel sorry for the up and coming QBs in these drafts, the Carson Becks, the Shadors, and all of them. Because as soon as you don't produce, they ready to just throw you off the ship. And it's like, well, what did they have to work with?
Well, the good thing about the NFL nowadays is that they're giving these QBs second chances.
Mm.
That's the beauty of it. Normally, you wouldn't get a second chance. Normally, you would just be a backup. But now, teams are saying, okay, it didn't work out there, but we have a good situation. We have a good coaching staff. We have a good scheme. I bet if we put you in this offense, in this scheme, with this coaching, we'll develop you the right way. We'll show the world what you were supposed to be with that other team. I like it.
You want to know who's on a decent trajectory with that? Justin Fields. Like when you see him play in Pittsburgh, they don't put everything on his shoulders. Like he doesn't have to be Superman every game. He can go out there and have rather pedestrian numbers and still get wins and play comfortably.
He can manage the game.
Yeah, he doesn't have to put up 300 yards a game and have to throw the ball 40 times. He doesn't have to do that. They don't. The Steelers saying, "Hey, listen, we don't want you to do this."
Oh, they keep it simple. Running game,
defense.
We'll give you these simple plays where you don't have to read a whole. You don't have to read a whole lot. It's not a bunch of option routes. It's just simple plays, simple football. Not trying to make them overthink things. And if the offensive line breaks down, go ahead and scramble a couple times. Bryce Young, he doesn't have that situation. It's just hell. And it's just unfortunate.
Just let me be me.